All right, perfect. Well, awesome. Thank you all for attending. Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing that we wanted to kind of reach out to is, we've had a lot of questions that came through on what are we doing? What do you see other shops doing? What is the government doing? What is going to happen with all of the uncertainty that's surrounding the COVID-19 coronavirus, whatever you want to call it. So really the biggest thing I wanted to kind of touch on first is what we're seeing from shops, what we think that shops should be doing right now to start protecting themselves financially for this. And then we'll get into what is the government doing, what are some of the things coming out. A lot of this stuff is really changing by the minute. We'll get into what the SBA is doing. And even just since I was talking to a client this morning, a lot of that stuff has already changed. So first off, let's get into what a shop should be doing right now, to just protect themselves. Luckily for me, or luckily for a lot of the shops I've talked to today, is a lot of people haven't really started to feel this yet. Really, a lot of this is uncertainty on what's going to happen going forward. But a lot of the shops that I talked to said, you know what, it kind of feels like business as usual. Depending on where you are in the country, we have clients all over the country. This could be also a slow time of the year for you anyways. But I've talked to a number of shops that have said, you know what, we've pretty much been seeing similar schedules, nothing really right now. But, we don't know what the tomorrow is going to bring. A couple of days ago, for most places, schools and bars and restaurants were all open. Now those are all closed. So what we need to do is we need to prepare for the worst and hope for the best. At the end of the day, the biggest important thing for shops right now is to have cash. Cash on hand is really the only way that anyone can get through a slow time. You could have all the sales that you want, but if you're not getting that cash or you're paying that cash out to people unnecessarily, you're going to slow down and it's going to be difficult to run the business. And so when I say what we need to do to protect ourselves, we're really protecting, three people. You're protecting yourself as the business owner. You obviously want to protect your employees and their livelihood and their family. And then you also want to, you want to protect the business and your operations to make sure that you can continue on. And so really the biggest thing to be able to do that is make sure that you guys are going to have money set aside. God forbid we do have a nationwide shutdown where nothing can happen. We're not going to have any income for a week or 2 weeks. What happens then? Internally, what can you do to kind of start getting cash or start keeping cash? Biggest thing, if you have accounts receivable out there on the street, we need to get that paid. We need to take that in. Every day that goes by, your consumer, your client's money is going to be getting tighter as well. Do you think that you're going to have a whole lot of luck collecting that here in a week when they start to slow down? Whether it's a fleet client or whether it's just an individual, people are going to be starting to be slower and slower to pay you. Accounts payable. I had a client call me this morning and he says, hey, you know what? Napa's breathing down my neck and they really want money, but I just don't know. There's so much uncertainty here. I just don't know if I can pay them right now if I want to. As far as I'm concerned, you need to make sure that you're taking care of yourself and your employees. If that means stretching out some of your vendors, then so be it. It's not an ideal situation, but it's not a situation that everyone else is not in the same place. You're going to get people yelling, you're going to get people screaming, but we need to make sure that you guys have the money that you need to take care of yourself. Loan payments, that's going to be one thing that still hasn't come out. I mean, there's been a lot of talk, are banks going to defer loan payments, whether that's personal mortgages, whether that's business loan payments. As far as I'm concerned, if it kind of gets to that point of, am I going to pay my guys and make sure that they're taking care of their family, or is the bank getting paid? That's a tricky call to make, but it's something that definitely needs to get, looked into. Now, obviously, if they come out where the banks can't penalize you, then, you got to do it. It's not like we're never going to pay them back, but it's just saying, hey, you know what? We can't have any money coming out of the business unless it absolutely has to. For a loan payment, hey, if we pay that loan back in, we're not going to be able to get that money back, especially if it's a term loan. You're just not going to. Versus use the grace period, keep the money set aside. And this is something that's just going to play out. We just have to kind of keep our eye on it and see what's going to happen. It's an ever-changing situation, and every day brings up something new. Kind of going on to what we were saying about loans, if you have a line of credit right now, I would most likely go out there and withdraw money from that line of credit. You just never know. We're going to pay some interest on it, but having that cash on hand could be huge for you, especially if stuff starts getting worse. You could see banks starting to stop lending money or put a pause on lending money. We want to make sure that we have that money and hopefully we never have to use it and we can end up paying that back. For those of you out there that don't have any lines of credit or something like that, and you are starting to get into kind of crunch time where you need some cash, there is alternative resources out there that you can look into. I'm never a proponent of the Advance Me or one of those credit card advance loans. Those are extremely, extremely expensive. There's stuff out there. Obviously, if you can go to a conventional bank, perfect, get that. The turnaround time on that is usually pretty long though. Something like Cabbage, some of our clients have used it. American Express also does some short-term business funding. They're not cheap. You're not going to be paying 3 or 4% annual interest, but it's also not hateful. You may be paying 6, 8%. Again, this is something that if you take out, you have that, at least you have the peace of mind that you have that money set aside. If you don't use it, hey, I'm going to pay it back. I paid a little bit of money for that peace of mind, but we have that. If it's really something that you're already nervous about, it would probably be something I'd look at doing. As far as what the government is doing, one of the things that the government came out and a lot of people have been asking about is last week, Trump came out and said that there's going to be $50 billion set aside for the SBA to help people with this crisis. And no one really knew what that meant. I was even talking to some bankers. I'm dealing with a banker now that we're doing an SBA for a client for a refinance. And I said, hey, what's going on with that money for, the SBA set aside for disaster relief? And as of last night, they didn't even have any direction on what to do. But fortunately for today, we actually did get some direction on how to do this. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to actually, everyone here should have in the chat box, you'll actually see this link that I've just shared in there. This is the SBA's website. I'm going to share this screen here. All right. So what this is here, let me move this out of the way. And so what this is this is actually the SBA's direct website for their coronavirus disaster assistance. And so when you go to this website, you'll see something that says apply for assistance. We go into this apply for assistance, and you have 3 different things here. Apply online, eligible disaster areas, and check application status. Now, as of this morning, if you click on eligible disaster areas, half of these states were not on here. As of this morning, we only had about 10 states that were included in the recognized disaster areas. Now, it's kind of tricky to figure out which states are being included and which states are not being included. It has to do if they've declared a state of emergency. From what I've been seeing, since we've already had about 10 or 15 that have been added today, I think that every state is probably going to be on here sooner rather than later. So first thing you got to do is check to see if your state is included on here. If your state is not included on here for right now, there's not a whole lot that you can do except for wait for it. If it is on here and you want to get this money, then you go back here to this main page and you go here and apply online. It'll make you set up a username. You can go through that and do whatever you need to do on there. Now let me pull up this screen here, show a little bit more of information about it. And so this is, kind of the information that got sent out to bankers on how to explain what's going on with the SBA disaster relief. One of the main things that we got to see here is how much are they giving out? So they're giving out loans up to $2 million per business for this. They haven't come out with eligibility on who qualifies, if there's an income limitation, if there's a cash flow requirement. They haven't came out on any of these specifics yet. You got to realize that this stuff is really just coming out and changing by the minute. What is important though is the interest rate. The interest rate is 3.75 without credit that is available elsewhere. What they're saying here is business with credit available elsewhere are not eligible. Okay. These are some of the verbiage that we will see who qualifies and who does not qualify. If we had to guess on that, what's going to happen is if you have an available line of credit, you cannot just use this because it has a better interest rate. For all intents and purposes, I think most of my clients that are going to be trying to use this, or small businesses that are using this, are obviously going to be using this as a last resort. I don't think this is something that's going to be abused by any means. Another thing on this too is, well, how long do I have to pay this back? Because that's what a lot of people have the concern of. Okay, well, that's great, hon, if I can get this money, but if business doesn't get any better, from here on out, I'm not sure, if I'm going to be able to repay it in 4 months. I'm not sure I'm going to be able to repay it in 6 months. We just really don't know how long this is going to last. They're talking that, they could take terms out to almost 30 years for this money. So it would be something that we'd be able to get a decent amount of money here, and the repayment wouldn't be too aggressive or anything on it. Now, some of the new stuff that has come out today is talking about different things with, payroll taxes. There's been some talk if they're going to defer some of your payroll taxes, whether that's going to be employee or employer. And then also just this morning, the Treasury came out and says that they're going to give out $1,000 to every person. Again, they're announcing that. We're hearing it real time, just like you are. We're not really sure how that's going to work, when that's going to happen. But it's something that is definitely helpful. I would say it couldn't hurt, the individual person that is losing their jobs or that is having to take a pay cut or reduce the amount of hours that's going on. Now, some of the things that also we think are going to happen, they haven't given us any guidance on, is most likely the tax deadline for this year is going to be extended. A lot of talk now is that the tax deadline is going to be in June or July. They are still coming out to say if that's actually going to be an extension of time to file or an extension of time to pay. As some of you might know, right now a lot of people extend their business or personal tax returns to the end of the year, whether it's September or October. But those extensions don't give you an extension of time to pay. If you owe $40,000 of tax in April 15th, the IRS wants their money in April. You can file the return in the fall, but they still are going to want their money to be paid up front. Now, if they extend it to June or July, most likely this could be a situation where they would actually extend your payments to June or July as well, which would be extremely helpful. Let's say that you're in a situation where you are, negatively impacted by the coronavirus and your business is, those extra couple months that you don't have to write a check into the IRS could really help you out. Let's say that you aren't impacted for it at all. Again, if we don't need to pay the money in by April, you would probably rather have that in your pocket than Uncle Sam's, just in case. You just never know what's going to happen. And like I said, if I'm paying $40,000 into the IRS right now and something happens in 2 weeks, I can't go to the IRS and say, hey, I'd like that money back. That money's gone. It's over with. It's out of my hands. It's just something that we got to keep an eye on. I would have to assume that they're going to start announcing these pretty soon because we're less than a month away from when the official tax deadline is. And so really, I mean, that's the biggest things that are coming out on our end of things. It's something that we're going to be constantly looking at, that we're going to be constantly evaluating. One of the other reasons that we wanted to have this webinar is to just let our clients know we're here. If you have a question about it, if you're concerned about it, just pick up the phone and call us. Use this as a resource that we are. If you're wondering about how to classify, payroll, that's one thing that came up this morning from one of my clients of, hey, I'm going to start to classify some of this money that I'm paying to people where I had to reduce their hours differently. That's not a bad idea. What they've done in the past for some of these different emergencies is they've actually given people tax credits for money that they've paid to people while they were affected by these different disasters. And so I have a client that's saying, hey, I'm letting people go, but I'm separating that payroll out because down the road, I might be able to get a tax credit for that. So if you're going to start paying people, time for having to reduce their hours and just essentially pay them to stay home, that might be something that you would want to classify separately. Whether we have an actual line in QuickBooks or your payroll to be able to track that, or if you're tracking that manually somehow on your end. Again, we don't know if it's going to be a credit, if it's not going to be a credit, but it couldn't hurt to have it. And it's something we could obviously help you out with doing. I mean, that is the major things that I wanted to get into on this. Really, I would just want to give you guys a little bit of time. We have some people in here. If you have any questions of something that you've heard, something that you wanted clarification about, you can go ahead and answer a question or put it in the chat box here, and I'd be happy to go through that. I know some of the people, there's been a number of webinars out there. I saw Carm Capriato had a really good webinar where he had a couple panelists on there today that was talking about what you guys are doing as far as your shop, operationally on how do you make your customers feel safe? Are you wiping the steering wheels down? Are we using steering wheel covers? Hey, are we limiting face-to-face interaction? All that stuff. The biggest thing that I've heard from a lot of my clients is, you know what, people are just scared right now, right? They're just scared and they're uncertain. And so just kind of being that front of saying, hey, we're still here. You still need to get your car worked on. We still need to get stuff done, but we're doing everything in our power to make it as safe as possible. Drop your car at night. We'll be able to go there tomorrow to pick it up. We'll wipe all the door handles down and stuff like that. So a couple questions here. So Scott, thank you. This is very helpful. Can we do it again next week? Yeah, I mean, this is something, like I said, that this is going to be changing. And so if it's going to be a minor update, we're going to be sending out emails to all of you guys to keep you posted on this. And then, yeah, I think that would probably be a good idea to just have a check-in next week and just see what's going on, go through any major changes. Because like I said, some of these different things with the extended due dates or the money that the IRS is giving or the Treasury is giving is going to be something that we'll see coming out, every single day here. And then someone asked here, will there be state relief funds as well as federal? Possibly. We don't really know yet. If I had to guess, almost all of this stuff is going to be coming from the federal level. It could be applied and distributed on the state level, but at the end of the day, states don't really have money for this type of stuff. The whole reason that a lot of these states are declaring emergencies and stuff like this is to open up federal funding. As far as what the individual relief is going to be for certain industries, that could be applied on a state-by-state basis, but most of this stuff is going to be coming directly from the feds. Good questions, though. Anyone else got any other questions on this? No? Well, I appreciate you guys all joining in here. This was just supposed to kind of be a quick thing. If you have any sort of questions, you want to get into it any further, I'll be here for the rest of the day. Shoot me an email, give me a call. You want to call Reed up, you want to email Reed, give Reed a call. As far as operationally what's going on in our office, fortunately for us, almost all of our clients are remote clients, which allows our team the flexibility to be able to work from anywhere. Usually on a day-to-day basis, we have a team of about 20 in here. Today, we have a team of about 6. Everyone else is working remotely and working from home. We're doing our best to stay up on everything and do it as efficiently as possible. But for a lot of you, it's very similar to us. All the schools are out, and so a lot of our team members have kids at home. So we're doing our best here to do everything that we can, but there could be some delays on our side of things. As far as we're concerned with the tax deadline right now, we're still going with the April 15th deadline and, plan to have everything filed by then. Obviously if there's changes or shutdowns that limit us from that, we'll reevaluate that. But as far as we're concerned here, it's business as usual. Well, business as usual as much as it can be for, what we have going on. So any other questions? No? All right, well, I appreciate you guys joining me today. Like I said, anything you guys want to follow up on, just give me a call. Be happy to go through any of it with you. And you guys have a great rest of your day and stay safe. Thank you.